Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're looking forward to digging in how Sense customers are using Sense together with TempWorks to drive game-changing results for their staffing firms. I'll give everyone one more minute and then we'll get started. So before we get started, we just have a few housekeeping items. First and foremost, we thank everyone for taking the time out of your busy days to join us here. Secondly, we encourage questions, so please ask them anytime via the Q&A section of this webinar. And lastly, this recording will be distributed afterwards, so look out for an email from us. And with that, let's kick it off. So a quick agenda overview. We're going to introduce our speakers. Then we're going to have a Sense and TempWorks partnership overview. Jump into the state of recruiting nowadays. And then we're going to get into some TempWorks and Sense customer use cases and see some demos. And then at the end, we will have time for some questions. So my name is Christina Krenner. I handle partner marketing here at Sense. I'm based out of wonderful New York, or rather just outside. And with that, I will hand it over to Morgan Smith.
Awesome. Thanks, Christina. Hi, my name is Morgan. I am a customer success manager here at Sense. So I work really closely with our partners to help them strategize, build all the great journeys, email campaigns, SMS campaigns in Sense. And I am based down here in Dallas, Texas. And then I'll kick it over to Maria.
Hi, thank you so much. Hi, I'm Maria Zeckman. I am a solutions consultant here at Sense, and I'll be walking through any demonstrations. I work with a lot of our new customers as they transition from sales to implementation. I live in Minnesota, so it's finally sunny here.
Yay.
So before we get into the part of our webinar, I'd like to give you a brief introduction about who we are here at Sense. We have been in business for just over 7 years, and we have grown to 900 plus customers. We are number 7 of the top staffing firms are on Sense, and we have 70 plus is the number of the top 186 staffing firms on Sense. So we're very, very proud of that. We're proud of our growth, and we are first and foremost looking forward to serving our customers every day with end-to-end talent engagement. So for a quick overview of TempWorks, they have been in business for over 25 years. We have over 100 mutual customers with them. They are mobile optimized and fully integrated all-in-one solution. They focus on staffing software, consulting services, and payroll funding. So for a quick overview of the integration, I would like to turn it over to Maria.
Thanks so much. So Sense and TempWorks Beyond system work in tandem to deliver cohesive and timely communications to your candidates and contact via automated outreach. Sense manages automated communication via email and text, and then seamlessly integrates that with the TempWorks data. So Sense takes action off the information in the TempWorks system, and then we'll write back directly into the candidate profiles, allowing your recruiters to focus on other revenue generating activities. So as you can see here, it's okay, go ahead. In addition to automating emails and text messages, Sense also allows TempWorks users to leverage a two-way messaging interface directly from the Beyond system or their mobile apps. Recruiters can quickly and easily message with a candidate real time, and rest assured that all historical information is going to automatically log back into that candidate record in TempWorks. So no more forgetting to log notes or not having a historical information. Our messaging platform ties in with our automation, allowing recruiters to also have full insight into upcoming scheduled communications, live texts, and mass outbound messages. Here you can see just some of our shared customers. We have over 100, but many organizations that may be familiar to you.
Thanks, Maria. So to showcase upon the powerful combination of Sense and TempWorks today, we're going to frame some of the best practices getting results for our customers around some key takeaways from our 2023 State of Staffing Survey. So using the data from pages 5 and 6 of the report, to talk about the report, we surveyed nearly 500 staffing leaders across all verticals in December of 2022. 74% were based in the US, 20% UK, and 6% elsewhere. So now that you understand a little bit about the data points we're going to share, let's dig into the best practices to get the most value out of TempWorks by using Sense. First, we are going to launch a poll though. What is top of mind for you in 2023? Expansion into additional markets, driving efficiency in your current day-to-day operations, or optimizing your tech stack ROI? Oh, wow. So resoundingly, driving efficiency in your day-to-day operations is clearly the answer. And we are here to help you optimize that. So I'm glad to see that. So perhaps unsurprisingly, the vast majority of respondents to the survey want to increase productivity across their teams this year. And I say unsurprisingly because just about every Sense customer is concerned with maximizing productivity. Isn't that right, Morgan?
That is, and we have a great example that, shows the same thing, right? So this is looking at, we're calling them Smith Staffing. They've been using Sense right last year. And you can see here they saved over 8,000 full-time employee hours and so that's 3.9, full-time employee hours saved, years saved. They sent over 1 million emails and SMS touch points. So if you can imagine your recruiters not having to manually do that every day, right? Sense is kind of handling that automation and making your team a lot more productive. So they reached over 160,000 candidates by doing this. And kind of two journeys that we see a lot of our partners use with TempWorks is a new applicant drip and an on assignment kind of check-in, right? Checking in with those candidates while they're on assignment. And I'm going to actually kick it over to Maria and she can show us what that looks like in Sense.
Absolutely. So here you can see our on assignment journey. This is an example of where we're interacting with candidates that you have currently placed. Oftentimes, recruiters spend a lot of time, or it's often on their plate to do so, to send welcome emails, text messages, check-ins throughout the length of somebody's assignment. I call it the TLC that comes along with all of the work for matching the proper candidate. What we can do is take that burden off of your team's plates so that they can refocus on making sure they're getting people redeployed or net new people added to new assignments. What you can see here is a journey example. This is the goal for your communication. And within that, you'll see your individual pieces of communication, which we call touch points. Every journey has an appropriate list or audience that we're trying to target. In this case, these are people who are starting new jobs with your organization. And then down below is your custom communication process. So here you can see maybe 6 days before a start date, I want to send a welcome email or communication. That would look something like this. Again, this would be fully custom to your team and how you want to structure it, but we've made ours a little newsletter style where you can put full branding, a welcome communication to that candidate, give them their new hire resources, redirect to any portals that you may be using, and so on. This allows you flexibility with that welcome packet and a nice personal touch. All communication through Sense is going to be coming from your staff. So think of us as the extension to your team. So everything will be sent from perhaps the job owner or the candidate owner in TempWorks. As we go back, we can also communicate to the customer. So every job, right, has a customer associated to it as well as a candidate. So we may want to send a welcome communication to that customer too, adding on to that TLC that we're instituting. Maybe 2 days before that person's start date, I want the recruiter to send a quick text message. Usually recruiters have that on their list of to-dos, and sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. And it's just because they're pulled in so many different directions. This takes that piece off their plates, allowing a SMS communication to go out to that candidate 2 days before their first day or on their first day to remind them where they're working and if they have any questions. The content can, of course, be fully custom. At that point, the communication is actually coming from the hosted phone number that Sense provides you through our messaging platform. So all of our tools are connected together and allows your recruiters to have a cohesive, full communication strategy. As we walk through the on assignment, you can have as many steps as you need to. So certainly we can start with welcome and making sure somebody shows up, but then throughout their experience with the organization, you may want to survey that candidate, see how they're doing, and check in at different intervals. You have full control over that path. Now back to you, team.
Awesome, thanks, Maria. So we also looked at prioritizing the right metrics, which here became time to hire, cost per hire, and drop-off rates. Now, you would expect that these top two almost always stay at the top, but I'm certainly not surprised that candidate drop-off is closing in on them. So I wouldn't be shocked if it got bumped to number 2 next year. And just talking about productivity a minute ago, so many of the challenges that plague productivity are leading to that drop-off, which in turn slows down time to fill and cost per hire. It's all a big cycle. So that's why leveraging automation and AI can help tighten up the ship everywhere and help improve these core metrics. And then it helps you reach your bigger goals. Morgan, this survey result aligns with a lot of the priorities we're hearing from TempWorks and Sense customers, right?
Absolutely. And we have a great graph here that we're going to show that I think, at the end of the day, everyone wants to see a good return on their investment, right? And Sense being one of those things. So to break this down a little bit, we are looking at what we call influenced placements. So Sense considers a Sense influenced placement or hire as someone who receives a touch point from Sense, and then within 90 days, they are placed, on a placement, they're put on a job, right? So we're kind of considering that Sense had maybe something to do right with that hire. This graph is assuming some details, but this is looking at, right, maybe they had 35 hires in Q1, they saw 68 in Q2, and it's giving you a quick breakdown of kind of what the ROI looks like in this instance. And yeah, I think a lot of our clients are seeing a good ROI using these tools. Awesome.
Awesome. So we have another poll question. What metric do you prioritize most? It's the time to hire, cost per hire, or drop-off rate? Okay, let's see the results. So cost per hire is 1 with 50%, and then it was a tie between drop-off rate and time to hire as the second. So it's interesting to see, and we will again getting into that So with productivity cited as the top goal for 2023, it's not too surprising to see efficiency noted here as a top challenge. But seeing redeployment continue to the top of the list of challenges is worth noting, since the definition of candidates market and employers market have really become fuzzy over the past 2 years. And we've been seeing that more and more here at Sense. Isn't that right, Morgan?
Definitely, Christina. And because whether we're seeing headlines of employers struggling to land talent or of layoffs in some key verticals, candidate expectations haven't reverted back to pre-COVID times. Candidates still expect the white glove experience that rivals the experiences they're getting from big name retailers. Regardless of the economy, employers are battling it out for talent across many verticals, which means that staffing firms who don't prioritize the elements that matter to candidates are going to really struggle with that redeployment. So we have another kind of look at some stats here as far as like a customer example goes. So inactive candidate outreach, right? And reaching out to those candidates that might be sitting stale in your database that aren't, getting a whole lot of love maybe. We had another staffing client that saw over 5,000 of those Sense influenced hires, what I was just talking about, in 2022. So again, reminder what that is. Those influenced hires are counted as influenced if they received a touch point, so an SMS message or an email from Sense, and within 90 days they're put on a placement. So that number is huge. It's really great to see, and those communications are working, right?
So our survey respondents that they report that going back to candidate drop-off, the candidate drop-off rate we found is 37%, and accurate reporting for candidate engagement was one of the automation capability that most firms have implemented. So our survey, the respondents did report that they lose 4 out of 10 candidates during the hiring process. This is a tough one to stomach because we know all the time, energy, and resources that go into landing these candidates. And Morgan, I believe that, again, we have some metrics that show that we know it all too well, don't we?
Definitely. In today's market, I think I've seen a recent survey floating around that says about 88% of hiring managers expect recruiting to be as difficult or more difficult in 2023 than they did last year. Despite layoffs and all the other headlines, which is pretty shocking. And speaking with some of our Sense customers every day, I know that they're definitely struggling with some of that drop off. So I know that Maria kind of covered this, right? But staying engaged with your candidates, right, is a great way to stay top of mind, to make sure that we're kind of nurturing those relationships. One way is newsletters. We see an average about 40% open rate on newsletters and monthly touch points like this with candidates that are on assignment. So it's a great way to kind of stay in touch. Maybe not always asking for something, right? Sharing blog posts, sharing some fun facts, whatever that might be. It's a great way to stay in touch and avoid some of that drop off.
Awesome. So let me share my screen here. So now we're going to walk through another journey that's more in line with what we call passive to active, which is what Morgan was explaining, re-engaging with candidates that might be getting stale in your database. What we would do is, of course, look at your data within TempWorks, look at potentially people you haven't contacted or haven't updated their record in maybe 60 plus days or whatever cadence you want to keep it at, and target those individuals. This is going to save you money and time, really, by instead of scouring those external job boards. You already have a vast database of candidates that are already in your system. Potentially, it's just the right time and the right place, right? Contacting them. So what we're going to be able to do is execute what we're calling a passive to active. So taking passive candidates and bringing them into the forefront into an active position. And we can do that through a multitude of ways. As Morgan mentioned, newsletters are a really common way of just getting somebody's attention. And, in sales in general, it takes roughly 6 to 7 outreaches just to get somebody to respond back. That's really what we're doing. That's really hard to do manually though. So for your recruiters to remember to send that newsletter, great. And now a month goes by because they didn't have enough time to send that next touch point strategically. That's where the challenge, and then that's the drop off. So what we're going to do is schedule all of that. And here you could see we have a series. So think of it as a classic drip campaign. And if somebody responds, we can then stop that communication and bring them into the next cadence, or your team is engaged real time actively. So here you could see a newsletter example that might be going out via email, where we're just engaging, allowing them to maybe jump to your job pages, see what else is out there, things along those lines, or learn again about your organization or what's going on. You have full control over putting these things together, and you have a lot of different types of things that you can send out. So not only does it have to be a formal newsletter, it could be a casual email or a casual text message that's coming out from contacts that candidates already know, maybe from a year ago or something along those lines. I'm going to jump back.
So long sales cycles are without a doubt the #1 challenge for staffing firms. And with 57% of respondents reporting that long sales cycles are their biggest challenge, we found that, when you're reaching out, you have no idea if prospects are vetting new staffing partners or when they'll even open it up to consideration. So in staffing more than, in quite a few industries, automation can play a huge role. And we found this also, I believe, Morgan, right?
Definitely. It's with these long sales cycles, staying top of mind is essential. I think, everyone's attention spans are a little shorter these days. So sending great content, kind of staying on top of those things is great. And you can do this multiple ways, right? There's the slide's a little wordy, but I think it shows that, using Sense and using, our Engage platform, sending these journeys out, you can gather a lot of kind of interesting data that you can share in these sales cycles, right? This is kind of breaking down maybe like a great NPS score from candidates, things like that. We're saving recruiter time, and they also saw an increase in their contract duration and revenue, like per hire directly, like because of these Sense touch points and the time saved that they're seeing. And in addition, we can be reaching out to those sales contacts, right? Nurturing them, nurturing leads as they come in, and doing it automatically. And again, saving a lot of time and improving productivity there. I think Maria is going to walk us through another example here.
Back again. And what we're seeing here is another journey example. So you'll see a trend here. All these automations and all these communications are just executed through different series of journeys that you can have running simultaneously. What you're seeing up top here, this one is more targeted towards your sales leads that want to convert into clients. You're going to be storing those prospects in TempWorks, and we want to be able to have some systematic outreach as they get entered into your system and as they move through your process, whether that's tracking based on certain statuses or certain other triggers in the system. So here you can see touch points, maybe the day after that prospect gets added into the system, we want to send a quick email to that customer. But then we can also have internal notifications. So this is nice because oftentimes in a sales cycle, you need to have a multi-prong approach. We talked about that on the recruiter side, right? Where you're sending emails, text messages, surveys, and chatbots. Same goes for your contacts. You want to be able to send emails, but you sometimes need to just pick up the phone, old school. And at that point, what we can do is send your internal team a reminder to do so and arm them with the necessary information that might be helpful for them to make that a successful call. So really all they're left with is logging maybe the details of the results of that call in TempWorks as they normally do. So here you can see an example of an internal communication to guide your process. We're not here to replace your process. We're here to augment and help streamline it so that everything runs smoothly and your team doesn't have to do extra work to get to the end result. So here's just a quick example where we're pulling fields from TempWorks and just providing that into a summary communication to your staff. One other thing that Morgan mentioned is also tracking NPS, so success rates, and how are people really just perceiving your organization, whether that's from a client perspective or from a candidate perspective. Here, I'm going back to our on assignment journey, where we are sending a NPS survey to our candidates at about the month mark. This can be flexible, of course, at any time to anyone you need to. Here we have a series of questions we're asking, so leveraging our surveys. And down below, we'll have the quintessential NPS question where how likely are you to recommend us? If this answer is less than stellar, instead of letting that go to some series of results where you reference it later in a separate system, what we can do is actually target and provide that, what could have we done better, that result, to the right person on your team. Maybe that's the customer success team or the recruiter directly. We can give that result so that they can take action and maybe rectify the situation before it gets worse. But on the flip side, let's say it's a really positive experience. You don't want those to go to the wayside either. What we can do is leverage possibly writing a review where you see that you need more exposure as an organization. Let's capitalize on the timing that somebody had a really great experience and position writing a review where you see fit. This could also be a moment where you ask for a referral or whatever you see as an organization that might drive your business forward.
Awesome, thanks, Maria. So we have our final poll question. And what is the most common obstacle you face when evaluating a new solution? Is it cost, ease of implementation, or adoption of said solution? Give it a sec. Okay, let's see. Oh, ease of implementation. Well, good. You're in good hands with Sense and TempWorks then. Noted. So again, throughout the entire, hiring journey and onboarding, it really is, as everybody knows, a true cycle, and that's where Sense integrated with TempWorks comes in to help you with everything and continue along with in the engage meetings, messaging, chatbot, and discover. And as you can see, we're with you every step of the way and help to alleviate some of the pains that we discussed here. I think we're going to go to some Q&A. So let's see what we have. This is actually a great question for you, Morgan, as you help your, as you help your customers with some of these issues. So what's your strategy for building and nurturing such communities of passive talent?
Definitely. We get that all the time, right? I know that, everyone seems to struggle with having maybe a lot of passive talent, or we like to call it like awake the dead, right? these people in your database that have kind of been, quiet, or maybe not, spoken to a whole lot. We want to make sure, like let's rile them up. Let's see if they're still interested. Let's see if we can get them in a role. So I think a good use of like email and text message, right? I know that it depends, right, on what kind of people are using and how we need to get in front of people, but I think a mix is always nice to see. Maybe reaching out about like once a quarter. I think sometimes we don't want to get a little buggy, and I know we all get those texts on our phone sometimes, like, who is this? Take me off your list. So making sure we're using like really great like calls to action too is also nice. So if I'm sending a text and I want to know if you're interested or not and speaking with me, like let's make that really clear in that communication so that candidate can respond easily and set up a meeting or whatever that might be. So I think nice, consistent communication with clear calls to action is a great place to start with kind of working with those passive folks in your database.
Awesome, thanks. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Maria, I believe that you can help with this, but this is actually a question for both you ladies. How have you seen the impact of chatbots change in the last few years?
Oh, I'll take the first part, and Morgan, if you want to add on. From a sales perspective, I'm seeing a lot more interest across the board. And what we really see the most implemented from our perspective is almost immediately a pre-screening chatbot, being able to take some of that initial low-hanging fruit questions off of your team's plate so that they're only talking to the people who the chatbot had pre-qualified, allows you to have a more targeted approach and be more successful hires as a result, rather than wasting a lot of time, upwards of 15 minutes per person, as you are getting on the phone with these individuals to realize they may not be a fit. We'd rather you get on the phone and spend that 15 minutes with someone who we have determined pre-screened and meets your criteria. And because they're fully custom, it allows you to have full control over those screening questions. I also see a really high, adoption of having a chatbot that sits on your website to capture individuals that haven't necessarily applied, but need some frequently asked questions answered or something along those lines when your team can't be there in real life. And with chatbot, we can leverage other tools like our meetings functionality to allow somebody who may have gotten pre-screened to actually schedule time with a recruiter directly instead of waiting for somebody to call them, which really drives that process forward again. Anything to add, Morgan?
Yeah, you really hit the nail on the head. The chatbot kind of works 24/7, right? So it's a recruiter that doesn't have to sleep. So they're always kind of there and available to answer any questions or, gather that information while your recruiters might not be, working. And in addition, our chatbots are getting smarter and smarter, which is exciting because the data that you're kind of pulling in from those chatbots is hopefully, nice and clean and ready to go. And then again, it's back to that saving time, being more productive for your recruiters and your team.
Awesome.
Okay, so this is interesting actually. And again, I think that a lot of people are, always wanting to say top of the trends. What are some of the trends you're seeing with recruiters and how they adopt new technology and practices? I guess particularly when new Sense customers come on too.
Oh, man.
Well, I have seen trends that people are just more open to technology across the board. That's definitely evident, from all of the hubbub with AI and everything coming through. We're staying ahead of all of that technology and able to offer it to our customers. So people are just excited. And people are less scared of technology. I think that's also a trend that I'm seeing. It's not necessarily we don't want to text message somebody or we don't want to send a chatbot. It's when you use it properly, it becomes a really added tool to your, tool belt as a recruiter, rather than taking away from your day-to-day impact that you make with hiring. It's letting you have a bigger impact because the influx of individuals is just too high to manage by yourself. And I do see, as people choose to bring on those tools, they're seeing success when they take it step by step with our team. And Morgan, you can speak to this a little bit more, but I see, most success when we have a targeted goal and how we accomplish that, rather than biting off every single thing, every journey under the sun all at once.
Yes, we have a few of those, and the excitement is always great, right? Because it gets the ball rolling and everyone's ready to go. But I do think it's super important to kind of have a phased approach, more or less, right? Make sure that we know what we're tackling first. And like more nitty gritty on the trends. I know like a lot of the partners that I work with, they really utilize Sense for candidate outreach and just kind of had the blinders on. And I'm seeing more and more folks use it for their sales process, right? And nurturing those leads and, even communicating with, partners that they're working with today. So I feel like those are kind of two trends or one trend that I've seen more of is that kind of sales outreach using Sense.
Okay, so this actually kind of goes along with, we talk about nurturing passive talent, but, top of mind also is drop off and ghosting. So what are some best practices companies can use to prevent drop off and ghosting using technology?
Yeah, great content.
We talk about it all the time, but it's
yes,
so germane to what we
yeah. Definitely. I think good content is key. And I know that Sense, I think I call it like the Sense Bible. Like we have a great like rundown of kind of content that, we've seen successful, right? With examples of text messages or emails that you could send out at specific periods of time. Specifically for ghosting and drop off, I think it's hitting people at the right time. I think we see like the highest open rates and response rates for text messages on like Mondays and Fridays, which is really bizarre. I wouldn't think that. And then it's the opposite for emails. It's like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's when you're wanting to be sending those. So I think paying attention to the time. And this is like, again, working with like your CSM at Sense, right? To make sure that we are sending messages to folks at the right time in order to kind of set ourselves up for success. So we hopefully prevent any of that ghosting or drop off there.
Okay, awesome. And then, we do have another one. What technology do you think is most valuable to ensure both recruiter and candidate satisfaction and in order to enhance their relationship?
Ooh, seamless technology that makes everyone's lives easier.
It's a trick question.
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, I guess, I guess we could say within the platform.
I would say, I find messaging and engage kind of the gimmies. You have to have those because you want to be able to ad hoc message anyone in your system because you want that, personal touch. And then within the automation, right, you want to be able to automate and take things off of your team's plate, which is a lot of what we focused on. Outside of that, if I were thinking the next level up, it would be a pre-screened chatbot, I think. Morgan, do you have any variation on that?
I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think anything that's saving time for your recruiter team, obviously. And I think candidates are more and more savvy, right? With the understanding like what a mass text looks like or things like that. So I think it's honing in what that content looks like and making everyone's lives easier, essentially.
Okay. All right. So this one's interesting because I know that, it applies, so many staffing firms have different verticals. So what recruiting tactics are consistent across different verticals and what variations are necessary from vertical to vertical?
I think like a big difference I've seen is like text versus email. And right, because I think you need to understand your candidate pool and what we're hiring for, things like that. Does it make sense to send an email, or does it make more sense to kind of send a text message, right? So I think that's definitely a difference I see amongst kind of verticals. But I feel like what's necessary is like constant communication, or maybe not like every day, but consistent communication with your database.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, you're a set of lawyers, if you're
Right.
placing lawyers, they're probably more comfortable with email versus if you're placing forklift drivers, primarily the light industrial industry in general prefers text message as the mode of communication. And what's great is our analytics are going to show you, maybe you have even data integrity issues, right? And you don't have the emails or a correct email for most people, but you have their text message. Let's leverage the functionality and capture that information, or use a chatbot to gather the right information so that you do have that. So I would agree, having just a separate approach for your different verticals within your organization. And you can always do that by segmenting your different journeys and drilling down to who you're targeting.
Awesome. Well, thanks, ladies. I don't believe we have any more questions in the queue. So I want to thank everybody for taking time this afternoon or I guess morning, maybe sorry, I'm here in the center of the world, but we really do appreciate everybody and your time and attention. So thank you so much, and thanks Maria and Morgan. That was awesome. I mean, I worked here for a year and a half and I learned more.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you all. And
Yeah.
if there's any questions or anything following, please reach out to our team and we'd be happy to help or redirect you to the right person.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much.
Have a great day.